I'll give you a quick introduction. My name is Teresa Boucher. I no longer have children in cadets. They've all aged out. But I had 3 go through cadets and really have a great experience. They loved it. I come from Ottawa. The last corps my kids were at were the Governor General Foot Guards, but they were in other corps as well. I myself was a cadet when I was younger, and I joined the Reg Force, the Canadian Forces, and I served for a number of years before retiring. And my husband is still serving. He's 31 years in. And I stay connected and volunteer and help because I believe that cadets is the best kept secret. I think it's the most amazing program. If we could only get the word out to more people, I'm still in awe at what youth can gain and what communities can gain by having a cadet program in their community. Fundraising is the one thing that everybody needs. We all need money, and unfortunately it's the one thing that everybody hates to do. And so last year when I came, I said to Marion, I said, you know, fundraising is something that I think we need to have a workshop on. She said, would you come back and do it? I said, sure. I didn't injure myself. I had shoulder surgery, so that's why I'm one-armed. So bear with me. And I do have a handout, so you can take it back. And if anybody wants a few extra copies to take back to their corps, by all means, just ask. I'll start somewhere on this side of the room here. And what I really want for all of us to have a chance to do as we go on in the workshop is to collaboratively take some notes from other corps. So there's a blank page in the middle of your package for notes, so that you can gain from what other people have to offer, which is why I said networking. So Effortless is fundraising, or can it really be effortless? There are ways to minimize the effort, and we're going to look at some of the things that I've personally tried and that I've had success in. Just for fun, I went on Google and I did a Google search for Fundraising Canada, and there were over 1 million hits. It was just infinite. It was incredible. And what I did notice as a trend is a lot of what was on the web were businesses charging to help you fundraise. And that's a new trend. People have realized that nobody wants to fundraise, nobody wants to ask for money, and therefore they are capitalizing on it. And so the one thing I'd start by saying is that I believe you're better to stay away from a company that's going to charge you to fundraise. I think it's really bad. I don't think it's too nice that there are companies making their money that way. The other thing I'd say is, you know, attitude is what makes the difference when you're fundraising. I've found that if I approach a business, if your glass is half full and it's not half empty, and you're giving that business an opportunity to help you, you're going to be successful in gaining their finances or their products. But if you go to them and you know you're really nervous and shy and scared to ask for money because nobody wants to ask for money, then that's likely when you're not going to succeed. And you're going to feel that you're obligated to them. And in the reverse, you know, companies are looking for places to give their money. Companies are looking for organizations to sponsor. And Cadets is a really superior organization that has a lot to offer to a community. And I believe that any good community business wants to help in fostering the cadet program. So we're going to start at the back of the handout, and we're going to go to the very last page. Because it's not about fundraising. It's about other ways that you can obtain money for your cadet corps. And basically, the more you can find, otherwise, the less you do have to fundraise. So the first one is a good sponsor. I think it's really important that every corps find a good sponsor. And oftentimes people have said to me, how do I find a sponsor? You know, and what is a sponsor? Our corps in particular, we have the Kiwanis Club as a sponsor. And they give a whopping amount every year, $20,000 to $30,000 to our corps. They do it based on cadet, $300 to $500 per cadet per year. And if you can find a good sponsor, whether it is a business in your area, a Rotary Club, a Kiwanis Club, you know, and find yourself a really great sponsor, you're going to have to fundraise all that much less. And sometimes it's how you approach that sponsor. You have to bear in mind that all of these, like the Kiwanis and the Rotary Club and all of those, they have to give a portion of those funds away the United Way. They have to give. That's in their mandate. So it's just a case of you fitting into their criteria so that you can tap into getting those funds. So a good sponsor is the first thing. Monetary donations, yes?
One of the things you have to find with that is the time that they sit down to lay out how much money they're going to donate.
Absolutely.
And you need to know that because you want to be there a month before.
Absolutely.
So they have your name on the book when it comes time to.
And also having a clear cut, that question always comes up of how much would you like? And if you can very clearly, without hesitation, give a dollar amount that's reasonable, that makes sense to both them and your organization, you'll have a better chance of getting money out of them. And once again, the positive aspect. I'm offering you the opportunity. We are offering you the opportunity to help with our Cadet Corps. To help foster these young adults, to give them an experience of a lifetime, to help our community with good, upstanding youth. Those are really important things to approach when you approach a sponsor. But as a good rule of thumb, if you can find $300 per cadet per year in a sponsor, you're going to have very little external funds that you must raise. Monetary donations. So charitable status. Some corps have their own charitable status, but underneath the Army Cadet League, we can all use the charitable status that's there. And a lot of organizations will give money if they know that they can get a tax receipt, because they must give money away. It's not that they want to necessarily, or that you're twisting their arm, but they must give a portion of their money away at the end of the year. It's a tax break for them. So a lot of organizations won't realize or understand or know, businesses, that you can give a charitable tax receipt. So that's something else to really make well aware. I hope everybody in here is aware of that. Yes? Okay. When it comes to charitable status, you can also do donations in kind. So if you're dealing with a printing house, or if you're dealing with a sports gear supplier, or somebody like that, they may not have funds to give you, but you can ask for a donation in kind. Say you need $1,000 worth of sports equipment. They might be able to provide you with $1,000 of sports equipment and still get their tax receipt, because it's a donation in kind instead of cash. So that's a creative donation. Website. I find that if you have a good core website, whether it's an unofficial one, to keep the community involved in your efforts. Show them where the money's going. Show them what you're raising for. Show them those kids in action having fun. That's really important. Flyers for fundraisers. So every fundraiser you do, you should have a flyer that goes home, that goes into the community, that is out there, so that people know you're raising funds. Don't assume that that cadet is going to go home and tell his family, because chances are he might not, or she might not, and don't assume that they're going to go to school, and let other people know. And local schools, the principals and the guidance departments and those types of things within your high schools. Those are other great places to go. And I see fundraising and recruiting go hand in hand together. I believe that if our cadets are out in the community and they're fundraising and they're in their uniforms and they're looking good, that's also a great recruiting tool. And that just recruits more fundraisers. Something that I've always done when I was involved at the beginning of every year, your cadets come into the program and you send them home a package, whether it's their enrollment docs or whether it's information. I always like to send home a talent survey. I won't just send it home with the cadet because it might not make it to the parent. I have been known to stand out in front of our corps, even if it's raining, handing them out to individual parents. Along with that's an invitation to come to a support committee meeting. But a talent survey, I find, is going to be your most effective tool for fundraising from within your corps for the entire year. Ask questions like, do you own a small business? Do you have a talent that you can help us with? Are you willing to help us? How are you willing to help us? You'd be amazed at the diversity within your own corps, within those families. And a lot of times you'll find small business owners, or you'll find a business owner within the community, or you'll find somebody who says, oh yeah, I can donate door prizes or raffles or game prizes or what have you. Start there. And that's also a great place to draw for volunteers, because fundraising does take volunteers. And a lot of people don't want to do it. And you'll have parents that are gainfully employed sitting on your support committee doing other things that maybe you don't want to tap them for fundraising because they're already gainfully employed and they're doing other things. And as volunteers, we can only do so much. But if you have a parent that says, you know what, I can devote 2 hours a week at home to something. Well, that's the ideal parent to help you with those flyers, or with the website, or with approaching a business. Maybe they have a connection. So look at the talent survey as a tool, I think it's something that everyone should do at the beginning of the year. And keep in touch with those people. When somebody does do something, thank you. Those 2 words, they go big time. Even if it's just an email and you don't have time to send a personal note, do thank them for their time so that they're appreciated and they know that they can help out again and that you're really thankful to have them. So some of the other creative ways that we can get funds without fundraising, Trillium grants. Everybody heard this morning about Trillium grants? Has anyone in this room done a Trillium grant? Okay. Can you share your experience with us? Was it a lot of paperwork?
Yes,
Okay. How much did you get?
15,000.
Was it worth the paperwork?
No.
It wasn't.
Well, yes, it's very important.
Okay. So it is something that can be labor intensive. I look at it and I say, wow, you know, and you may not get 100% of what you asked for. You can apply for every year for a certain dollar amount. Is it under 25,000? And then over the 25,000, you can apply once. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody? Okay. But Trillium grants are a really creative way to get those funds. And if you look at the effort of the paperwork versus having to fundraise that amount of money doing something else, it doesn't cost you anything to do the paperwork and try, right? But you need to be specific.
Where do you get the information on those Trillium grants?
The website.
I'm sorry?
And it'll walk you through it.
In here.
Wanted to know where you get the information from Charlie.
On the website. We found it on their website.
If you just search Trillium grant,
Yeah.
but as this gentleman said, it'll walk you right through the process. And
One of the things you have to be careful with the Trillium grant is there's a 3-year follow-up program after you get the money. That you not only have to do with the money what you say you're going to do with the money, you have to have a pretty comprehensive paper trail. And they do audit your books 3 years after. And if they're not satisfactory, they could go after you to recoup some of the money.
okay.
3 years.
But if you're specific and you're fundraising for a big ticket item like sports equipment, kayaks, you know, canoe gear,
And equipment.
Fan, flash.
yep,
fan.
there you go. Then it's best to try and use that avenue if it's available. We talked about the charitable status. Private grants are another way to get amounts of money from organizations. A lot of businesses have their own charitable arm set up to offer grants to community organizations and community groups. The one thing that I found is a lot of businesses want to lump cadets in with brownies, guides, and scouts. And I always, when I approach a business, try to distance myself from those organizations because we're free. Youth can attend and come to cadets free. Their uniforms are provided. It doesn't cost them anything to come, whereas with the other organizations, they do need to pay, they do need to, you know, obtain a uniform, and there's that private portion to it. So I try, whenever I'm faced with a retailer that wants to lump us in with the others, I try to distinguish us and explain why it is that cadets is unique. Private grants and also discounts. So I'll use Mountain Equip Co-op as an example because I've had experience with them. Our Corps wanted a bunch of abseiling equipment. And it was very expensive and we needed so many sets. And so, you know, whenever I've been faced with having to obtain something for the Corps, I've never ever just opted to say, yes, let's buy it. I have always gone to the retailer of where we're gonna buy something to say, we're gonna buy so much, can you donate so much? Or this is what we need, what can you donate? Or, you know, can we do some of this, can you give us more of this? Because if you're going to be giving that retailer sale anyway, it's to your advantage right up front before you even place the sale to ask them, okay, what can they do? Mountain Equip Co-op, if you go on their website, has their own charitable arm. They have grants and they have free equipment available, but you have to be creative with some of these businesses to fit within their criteria. So we had one parent look at Mountain Equip Co-op and they said, there's no way we fit in their criteria. You know, it has to be something nature-oriented, it has to be something good for the environment, it has to be something for exercise. And if you can look and really find yourself in those categories, and it takes a little creativity, you can, most of the time, make your core fit within their definition so that you can get that creative money, or you can get that equipment. And if you can't, then that's when you say to that retailer, you know, I really appreciate that you have this community program, but we don't completely fit in your box. So is there something else you can do for us? Can you give us a discount, or can you provide us so many sets if we buy so many sets? Gifts in kind, we talked about that. The other thing is goals. When you're fundraising, you're going to have an easier time of getting someone to donate money to you if you can give them a goal. So if you can say to them, we need $1,000 for this item, you're going to be more successful because you're giving them a dollar amount and you're giving them an item that you're fundraising for. The only sad thing or difficult thing to that is you have to make sure that you're going to be successful at raising what you need so that you can go ahead with that goal. I had somebody talk to me this morning and their core had raised $50,000 for something and they decided not to purchase that item and they decided not to go forward with it. Then there was a lot of bad feelings because they had fundraised for it, people had donated money for it, and then they were like, oh my goodness, and they didn't, you know. So you have to be really careful and cautious that what you set up is reasonable and attainable and honest, because you want transparency and you want these people to come back to you and donate money again. You know, so you have to keep them in the loop. So if you have a project that you're going to fundraise for and it may not be, you know, something attainable, or it may be a dream, you know, you may hope to raise $20,000 and it's possible you only raise 10, then you have to be transparent enough to say, this is our goal, this is what we'd really like to see, however, if we fall short, this is what we're going to do. You know, so if you turn to the first page, the first page is some ideas that I have tried that I know work, and I've laid them out just more for the smaller core, the core that doesn't have a lot of manpower. They give you some websites and the idea and the basic description of it, and they also show you the commitment of the number of people required. And that's important if you're a small core and you don't have a lot of volunteers, so that you know up front, you know, this is how many people it's going to take to run, and this is my profit margin. Out of these ideas, the family photo is one that I'm really going to talk about, because I think that within every community there are at least a few small photography organizations or photographers. And photographers are one business where they don't really go out and advertise their services. They're kind of a word-of-mouth business where, you know, you had nice family photos done there this year, so you're going to tell your neighbor and they're going to go back next year. And when you're dealing with cadets, you know, everyone loves to see their kids in their uniform looking really sharp. And so at the end of every year at our core, we would always take one big core photo of all of the kids. It would be a parent that was either a photographer or a parent that was very comfortable with technology, and they would take a number of poses and pick the best one, and then we would go to Costco and we would get them printed in 11 by 16 size. We did it in 11 by 16 because you, as a homeowner, don't have the facilities or the, you know, the technology to be able to print it in your size, that size. So it was nice. It was a keepsake photo for the kids. They all wanted one. We sold them very reasonably, but it did generate funds. And I know Costco is big time into donating and helping. So if you approach them and you say, this is what we want to do and we want to help the cadets and we want to raise some funds, it's likely that they're going to say, yes, we'll help you with that. So on the other side of that is if you have a photographer who's willing to do sittings, you can have them come and do either family portraits one night of the year where the families attend, or with the cadet in uniform you have portraits. And there was a gal in my seminar this morning who said that they have done this every year, and they actually charge for the sitting fee. So the sitting fee is 100% profit because that photographer gives the sitting fee to them. And then that photographer makes his money off of the packages. And he's also very generous with them and gives them a bit of profit off each package. So the photographer is more than happy to come. You've already made money from the sitting fee. It's reasonable and affordable for the families and for the cadets. And they're leaving with a really nice keepsake and a nice package. You know, so I really like that idea. And I find that to be completely effortless for the support committee, because it's that photographer that's coming in to do the work. And it really is a win-win for everybody concerned. Then we've all seen the white elephant sales, the garden sales, the eco-recycling, the things like that. One cadet corps here today has done this most beautiful cookbook, and they are for sale, and they're selling it for only $5. There's my plug. See her after the ceremony. But really nice idea. You know, I grew up in a small community in Manitoba, and I remember that every year we'd do a cookbook. And it would have, you know, Sarah's cupcakes and Mary Jo's spinach dip. And, you know, if you're in a small community especially, I think that's something that's really nice and well received. But it's got different cadets' recipes in it. You know, it's something personal. And everyone loves a new cookbook. And this was done in a really nice format. And you guys had a printer do it up.
Yeah, when we did it, we went to a local printer in Lindsay, and they charged us $1,000. They gave us a deal on it too. They charged us $1,000 and we made back 1,000 plus on selling them at $15. Right now, because they're out of date, we're selling them for $5, and that's just pure profit. And if you get a cookbook, say, little Johnny put a recipe in, and you go, hey grandma, my name's in here, they're gonna buy it because Johnny's name's in here, right?
And how much do you hope to make by the end if you sell all of these?
If we hope to make at least $3,000 by selling everything. And right now we've got, well, with what we sold today, we've got 3 boxes left. And there's 50 in a box.
And it's not really labor intensive. People provide the recipe, somebody needs to put it together, but the printer actually prints it, collates it, binds it, you know. I always look for fundraisers where you don't have to outlay money in the beginning, and that way you're not stuck. So we've all done chocolate bars. As much as nobody likes chocolate bars, they raise a lot of money. But there's risk involved. You're paying upfront, and you're sending your cadets home with a box of chocolates. And if they don't return with that box of chocolates or the money, what do? You know? And it happens often. I've seen it time and time again. And you know, when that 12-year-old's standing in front of you and he says, I don't know where they are, or I only have $10, you know, what are you going to do? So I look for those fundraisers where you don't have to outlay the money in advance and you don't have to have any risk involved, you know. And something like this is a good example of, okay, you're having to put out, but you know you're going to make it back, and if you're stuck with them at the end, you're selling them for whatever price, but it's 100% profit at the end once you've paid for the initial ones. T-shirts are another thing. You know, a lot of corps have T-shirts so that on Saturdays, if they do something as a corps in PT gear or another time, and they're not in uniform, they have a corps T-shirt. And that's another example of using a T-shirt for a fundraiser. A lot of printing shops will donate the T-shirt if you buy the screen printing, or vice versa. And so if you're going to go into a T-shirt or a hoodie adventure or anything like that, where you do have to put your money up front, be cautious so that you can use it for a few different purposes. And that way you're not stuck with any of them, and you're not stuck paying a bill for something that you can't use. So if you have a regular T-shirt that you're going to use with your cadets when they're out in the community and they're not in their uniforms, then make that a fundraising T-shirt. You know, so that that's the T-shirt that you can actually sell, and they can take to school and sell to their friends and what have you. So the page 4 has a bunch of different ideas. We've probably all tried a lot of these. I'll start with the a-thon. Last year when I was here, I went to Tim McKee's seminar. He's from Orleans. He's the CEO of Orleans. And I found it so neat that they go to their local mall and they do push-ups. Everyone see the picture this morning on the really neat idea. Great way to raise money. It's fitness oriented, it's cadet oriented, it gets the community excited. People, you know, say, wow, I want my kids to be part of this too, this is great. And they raise a lot of money doing that. And it gives good exposure to the community of these are good upstanding youth with a purpose, not getting into trouble late at night at the mall. And so that's a great example of a worthy a-thon. Some of them we've done are wake-a-thons. So, you know, nobody wants to go to bed at night when they're teenagers, so you have a wake-a-thon. You keep them awake all night. They raise funds, they do the pledge thing, they come, we give prizes. Prizes are key for youth. If you want them to take part in fundraising, prizes are really important. And I've never had to buy prizes. I don't believe you should ever have to buy a prize. There are so many stores and businesses and organizations that have, you know, this stuff to give out. And that's another thing. When you're soliciting donations or, you know, money or funds, if you go to a smaller retailer, a smaller business, and, you know, they give you the door in the face when you ask for money, well, turn it into a positive. Don't take no for an answer. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, I understand that you can't give us money. Do you think that maybe you could donate 150 notebooks or some sticky notes or things that you need anyway? Or some prizes, you know, some toys, some games, some books, what have you. So most retailers, if they can't afford to donate money, you know, feeling a little sorry for you, they're going to cough up something. And those are the things you're going to use for prizes. So whenever you have an event, make sure that, you know, the youth are going to get some prizes for attending or for bringing people. Lawn maintenance is an interesting one. In a smaller community or in a community where you have a lot of cadets that are really connected, that can work. If you have a group of them and they say they're going to go out every Saturday morning or whatever day of the week, and they're diligent about looking after that property, that can work. Car washes can be interesting. Car washes, you have to have supervision. You want to make sure vehicles don't get damaged. You want to make sure you have a place for the water and adequate supervision. So car washes can be a little difficult. They're not labor-free. They can be very labor-intensive. Spelling bees, but in the cadets' case, we can use cadet knowledge bees. So if you're wanting to really increase the knowledge for NSE or for your star levels, you want your cadets to really have that knowledge in their head, you can have bees for this, and they can have teams, and you can offer prizes. Again, you're going to give prizes. You can charge an entry fee, or you can charge people to come and attend. And even if you have community members or families, another great recruiting tool. What is cadets all about? So you put out flyers, you put out information, you ask people to attend, maybe they pay $1 to come. It's not a huge fundraiser, but it's a little bit, and it recruits for you, and it gives the community a reason to be passionate about the cadet program, and then they might go back and they might say, I really liked what I saw. These kids are really smart. They're learning a lot of stuff. This isn't just fun. Now we're willing to support them. So if you get them hooked a little bit and give some information, then they might come back and donate bigger the next time. Used items, seasonal sales, sports tournaments. Sports tournaments, there again, you can go to your local schools and you can say we're going to have an abseiling day, or we're going to have a basketball day or a canoeing day or what have you. And the schools, if you have the support of the principals and the schools in your community, again, because cadets is a great program, and it's to the advantage of the schools to have a lot of kids that are cadets because it makes for great youth, then they may be willing to support and enter teams and charge so much a team. Prizes, make sure they have prizes. Raffles. I've run into the fact that raffles most often need a lottery license or a gaming license. So raffles are something you really need to check. All fundraising within your community, you really need to check and see what the rules are where you are, because you want to do things above board. If you run into the raffle and gaming license issue, you can look at a silent auction. Silent auctions usually do not generate having to have a license of any kind, but a silent auction and a raffle, the one thing I'd say for both is you need supervision for those items and those prizes. Every year at our Corps, we give out nice gift baskets at the end of the year on the final parade. And they're free. We just give everyone that comes a ticket. And the reason we do it is just to thank people for coming to parade, to give them an opportunity to come, bring their friends, bring their neighbors. Again, a nice recruiting tool. They see all these beautiful youth in their uniforms looking sharp. It's the end of the year, and in September they're going to send their kids to join. But a few years ago, we had it very sad. Shoppers Drug Mart in our area donated 3 huge gift baskets. They were worth a few $100s each. There was one for a gentleman and there were 2 for ladies, full of perfumes and cosmetics and items like that. And we had one go missing at our parade. And we're still dumbfounded because nobody knows where it went to. So if you're going to have prizes, if you're going to have silent auction items, you need to ensure you have adequate supervision. That's really important. We all want to think that everything's nice, but it's the same with tagging. Tagging, you need to ensure that you have enough adult supervision for those youth that are tagging, because everybody has the horror stories of things that have gone wrong with tagging. But tagging, it's a must, but you need to have enough adult supervision there. Concerts, if you have a band in your cadet corps and you want your youth to get exposure, to have some feedback about their band, some constructive criticism, maybe you have a little concert and you invite all the families to attend and you charge them only $1 each to come, or a donation. Come and listen to our band halfway through the year. And again, because a lot of corps, people are not going to hear your band until your final parade, or maybe they're going to hear it twice a year and that's it. But a lot of families don't realize they even have a band unless they have a cadet in the band, or they don't realize some bands are outstanding. So that's a way to get them involved, give them some public feedback and an audience, and for people to be able to come and say, yeah, I'll give a donation, I'll come listen to your band. Doesn't cost you anything. Not labor intensive. They're there anyway. Pick a night and do it. A lot of workplaces will allow you to dress down, and somebody this morning said that they're connected through United Way. So in their area, they can do dress down days within their own workplace and dictate that they go to their cadet corps. So check with United Way in your area, check with some of those organizations and companies. I know in Ottawa we have a number of car dealerships. I have a son that's a mechanic, and they do dress down day once a month, and they pick a different charity every month. You know, so if you go in there and you say, this is our Cadet Corps, and this is what we need, can you help us out? A lot of businesses will be really good about saying, yep, we'll donate this day to you guys. Grocery bagging. You don't see it a lot in Canada. We spent 4 years posted in Hawaii, and in Hawaii in the States, it's very popular. You see a lot of people bagging groceries. And I would never mind giving people money to bag my groceries, you know. So grocery stores here, if you're going to be tagging at that grocery store, you can also ask that manager, could we be bagging groceries? Or if you approach a grocery store to tag and they say, no, don't want kids begging at the door for money, turn it around and say, I understand that. Is it possible we can offer you a service? Could our cadets come and bag groceries for a day for donations? Or at Christmas time especially, you see windows decorated within the grocery stores. A lot of cadets are really artistic. So that's another opportunity to say to that grocery store manager, sometimes they have to hire businesses to do those windows. Sometimes they have local store employees do it. Say, you know what, can we come do that for you in exchange for a donation? You know, and you have a canteen within your Cadet Corps. So that's a nice way to say, you know, could you donate juice or bottled water or, you know, this item or that item. So you're not necessarily asking for cash, you're asking for an item that you would have to go and buy anyway, so it's as good as cash to you. And it costs them less than you'd have to pay for it, so they're happy because they're not really giving you the 100% of what it costs. So all of those are creative ways to get items. And while we're on the tag day, the one thing I'll mention about it that I've always found, whenever I've been out tagging with youth, you know, they sometimes don't like to tag with me. I have a reputation of being a pretty strict mom. But because I tell all of them, put your best foot forward. Make sure that uniform is beautiful and you look good and you're proud and you stand there and you sir or ma'am everybody to death that walks by you. It's very hard for somebody to say no if you give them eye contact and you say, good morning, sir, how are you? Would you like to support our cadets? You know, and that's exposure again. And people are seeing a fine young lady or a fine young gentleman in the community that's there on a Saturday morning when they could be playing video games asking for money. You know, so that goes hand in hand with the recruiting. So if they're going to be out doing any fundraising, make sure they look good. Make sure they're proud. Make sure they're happy to be there. By the end of the day, you'll find the kids standing a little taller. And what I noticed when I was tagging with ours is that the ones that are really tall and proud, the ones that do give eye contact, that do acknowledge people, their boxes were heavier at the end of the day than the others. And soon kids talk. And they start to realize, oh, gee, they got a toonie and I got a quarter, and you know, so that's another opportunity for them to realize that, yeah. I had a neat idea this morning. Somebody told me penny drive. Now that we're going to get rid of the penny. Everybody has pennies. What are they going to do with them? Who wants to roll pennies? Not me. You know. But having said that, I won't go and put them in the machine and pay for the machine to roll them. I'll get the older cadets together and I'll take them and I'll say, let's roll some pennies. Because why give your money away? But now that we're going to get rid of the penny drive. Everybody's got pennies. Get their pennies. This is a good opportunity for that right now. 50-50 draw at the top of page 5. 50-50 draw is something else that usually requires a lottery license or a gaming license of some kind. In Ottawa, we've had a really beautiful relationship with the Senators hockey team. And what we've been successful at doing is going in and running their 50-50 draws at the games. Now, we don't get the 50-50 portion because that would require for us to have a lottery license or a gaming license, but the Senators Foundation, every game has a 50-50 draw at the home games, and they're always looking for people to run the draw. So what happens is at the beginning of the year, we ask them if we can go and run their draw. And the first year we did it, it was hard to get in. A lot of charities have their names up there. You may have to be patient, you may have to wait. But find a sports team, whether it's hockey, baseball, you know, minor league, it doesn't matter. Find a sports team where they're going to do 50-50 draws anyway for their foundation or for their organization, and then ask to go in. And what it entailed for us was supplying, and they would tell us at the beginning of the year, you need 11 people at the following games. So the first year we only had 5 games. So it was a commitment of 11 people at 5 games. They had to be 16 or over, so we had to rely on the adults. First year we weren't comfortable sending cadets in, so we just it was the adults that we picked on, not cadets. Now we will send cadets over the age of 16. We have a comfort zone. But we'd go in, and you get to watch the hockey game free. You get to go free. You get your parking paid for you. They pay your parking. You get a pizza dinner afterwards when you're rolling the change and counting the money. And at the end of the year, after you've fulfilled your